Those don't match. The dislocations are different. Those don't match. The dislocations are different. I don't think those are the same dislocations. We're looking for something else. I don't know, but it seems to me those dislocations we found don't match. Those don't match. The dislocations are different. I don't think those are the same dislocations. We're looking for something else. The fingerprints are identical. It's a pity they don't belong to the culprit. I've just thought of something.
Yes, Max?
Let's worry about it later. Why should she care just for that? There's no powder on the brush. I won't see any fingerprints without it. There's no powder on the brush. I won't see any fingerprints without it. There's no powder on the brush. I won't see any fingerprints without it. There's no powder on the brush. I won't see any fingerprints without it. There's no powder on the brush. I won't see any fingerprints without it. There's no powder on the brush. I won't see any fingerprints without it. There's no powder on the brush. I won't see any fingerprints without it. There's no powder on the brush. I won't see any fingerprints without it. There's no powder on the brush. I won't see any fingerprints without it. There's no powder on the brush. I won't see any fingerprints without it. There's no powder on the brush. I won't see any fingerprints without it. There's no powder on the brush. I won't see any fingerprints without it. There's no powder on the brush. I won't see any fingerprints without it. There's no powder on the brush. I won't see any fingerprints without it. There's no powder on the brush. I won't see any fingerprints without it. See? Someone got caught at the frame here. Right. There probably isn't more of them here. It's weird that in the era of all these scanners, fingerprints are still acquired in such a primitive way. Anyway, it works, and that's what matters. All the prints are documented. I can't do anything else here. So, this print, that's something, isn't it?
To tell you the truth, you've surprised me a lot. Don't you want to do this as a career?
To spend whole days hunched over a microscope and earn less money than now? Yeah, that sounds very promising.
I thought so. Someone has to put that print through the database anyway. We can scan it somewhere and mail it.
What are you staring at? Should I go to her again?
I think she'll be much more receptive to you than to me. And she ate that box of chocolates we were to share, so let her try.
I don't know what I should say to her right now. Really nice fingerprint. Complete, undamaged. It'll be a pleasure to find out to whom it belongs. I know I might be asking a lot from you.
That's okay. You said it yourself. We have a common aim. Besides, unlike most, you are very polite. And you're a nice guy, too.
I found another fingerprint here. Could you send it to the same place as the last one?
Sure, no problem.
Yes, exactly. You too. Bye.
Mission accomplished, fingerprints sent. How long is it gonna take?
Hard to say. They'll put us at the end of some list, that's for sure. But I haven't idled about. I called a couple of places and I learned a little about those lost objects.
Like what?
Like, for instance, one of them is actually a double statuette with an interesting history.
Oh, you could ask me directly. I know these two statuettes only too well because we got them thanks to an undersea expedition we co-financed.
You lifted them from the sunken SS Maori, didn't you?
I clearly chose well. The exhibit is even more interesting because of the fact that a renowned law firm tried to take them from us by bringing all sorts of charges against us.
But you have rightful ownership now, don't you?
Lawyers of that firm represented some distant heirs of the original owners and wanted the statuettes to be returned to them. Fortunately, we have judges with common sense.
That's actually pretty interesting. Is it possible to find out who was behind it? Who was the previous owner? Maybe there's an inventory of goods the ship carried, and the name of the owner.
Well, you could try to ask in the harbor, and if it crossed your mind that the theft had been orchestrated by the original owners, then our thinking, Madame Durand, is quite similar. Well, hopefully this information will be useful to you. I have to run off and arrange something.
I've just thought of something.
Yes, Max?
Do you think the theft may be the work of some descendants of the statuette's original owners?
Well, we definitely can't dismiss that. At least until we find out who owned the statuettes transported by the SS Maori.
Yeah, we have to follow this lead. Well, this bar probably won't get any prize for its original name. There's a similar one in just about every port in the world. It weighs almost nothing and won't bother me, so why not to take it? The piece of cardboard is empty. The piece of cardboard is empty.
What would you like, boy?
I'm looking for information about a ship. An old ship. Maybe you know something?
Just pushing papers. When I did manual labor, it was much better, but those days are long gone.
The SS Maori.
That's a damn old ship, that one. She sank sometime around the end of the last century. She was owned by Henderson. That's way too old even for me.
By Henderson?
P. Henderson and Company. Big company. But they finished over 30 years ago. I certainly know a thing or two about that, because this was their branch.
Are there any materials left? Inventory books?
I remember all the people I meet, and I certainly haven't met you, buddy.
Well, I care a lot.
Okay, boy. I'll bring you everything I can find in the back there. I'll put it down there on the table. Okay, take it. It's not mine anyway.
I need to ask you something.
Ask, boy, but count on the fact that some things are not free of charge.
What are you doing?
I'm trying to live off the few bloody rands they give me, and that's not easy, believe me.
But what exactly do you do?
Just pushing papers. When I did manual labor, it was much better, but those days are long gone.
The filing cabinet probably contains only old entries. New ones are likely stored in a computer, although I can't see any here. This machine has seen better days, but apparently it still works. To bite off the tip of a cigar is uncouth. A proper gentleman would cut it. Or at least so I've heard. I really can do quite well without cigars. It's covered with a thin layer of dust. Here is all the obtainable information on the last sailing of the SS Maori. The list of cargo and passengers is heavily damaged, though. It probably got wet, and parts have been copied on the previous sheet in several different ways. I need to take these 2 pages.
The fact that you, boy, have enough money doesn't mean that the rest of the world is the same way off. Do you know how much money I earn? Don't even ask. Do you want it or not?
All right, I mean borrow. I'll bring them back. I just want to check something with them.
That sounds better, but it'll cost you something. Let's say $1,000 for rent?
Here you go. Can I use your projector?
Help yourself, mate. That's included in the price.
I'm not interested in the rest of the ship's log. I'm not interested in the rest of the ship's log. I have to take a look if the list contains those statuettes. If so, I hope there's also someone's name next to the entry. Those pages apparently belong to each other, but it's impossible to read anything useful from them because they show through the paper. I'm gonna have to do something about that first. Those pages apparently belong to each other, but it's impossible to read anything useful from them because they show through the paper. I'm gonna have to do something about that first.
Well, seeing as you've made yourself at home here and are helping yourself to everything, would you care to inform me what you found so far?
We're working on it. As soon as there is any news, you'll be the first to know. By the way, can that copier print on transparencies?
Of course.
A common copier. Nothing worth mentioning. Several copies of the cargo list of the SS Maori. have to take a look if the list contains those statuettes. If so, I hope there's also someone's name next to the entry.